We are back. What's it going on, Legends? But welcome back to Beyond the 90s. It's been a while since we've done a preview because, as you know, it's been nothing positive to talk about, really. But we are joined with a very special guest, David. David, thank you so much for joining. How are you?
A football aside, I'm well, thanks. So about yourself?
Same here, footballs. But yeah, let's get into it again. We've been down the dumps as Leicester. So just to be honest, everybody's blaming everybody. There's loads of problems, and it seems like it's even worse for Norwich at the moment. I mean, what is happening?
Well, where do I begin? I mean, this has been an absolute disastrous season so far. We're only 11 games in, 14 games in, sorry. That's how bad it's going. I can't even remember where we are. Normally quite good at all these statistics, but we have, if I can summarize it, we have a manager who has the worst win ratio in our club's entire history. We have a sporting director who has spent 72 million and made the team worse. He can't sack the manager because that effectively sacks himself, as he's already sacked two head coaches. We have an executive director who wants to move the entire away end to behind the goal and uproot 3,000 fans to random parts of the stadium. And we have a sub sporting director who used to be the loan manager, who I don't actually know what he does. So, all in all, if you look at the management side of it, things aren't great. And then you go and look at the pitch side of it, and we are second bottom, have not won a game since August, barely scored a goal. Before last night, we had lost seven second halves away, 1-0. In the second half, we couldn't even score in the second half until last night. And we have a team of players who clearly are absolutely low in confidence and possibly for some of them not really high on ability either. So that was my summary of a team who you are going to beat this weekend. I'm almost absolutely certain of that.
Let's see, because again, what is the problem just in general confidence? Because we have without it just I'm afraid this might turn into a Four Yorkshiremen sketch where we just go, oh, we're worse. Who's worse? Because we've got, I think, our three strikers over 45 games have got 3 goals. Patson Daka's got 1. Like we can't score at the moment. We can defend kind of okay, but this brings me on to another player another player that we have in common. That might be a little quiz later. How's Jeff Schlupp doing? Been there for a couple of seasons now. What do you make of him? Because obviously he's from our academy.
So he actually has only started this season with us. So he got signed in the summer, and on Saturday when we lost 2-0 at home to Hull, he was actually very good. He's probably the best player on the pitch for us. Last night he did his hamstring, limped off the pitch, so he's not going to be playing on Saturday unless there is a miracle turnaround. He looks in quite a lot of pain. I'm guessing hamstring injury is quite severe, at minimum 6 weeks. So, yeah, he was impressive against Hull. I'd seen him earlier in the season. He hadn't really done much, but you can tell that he's got something about him. He's now playing, well, he was playing left wing back. We seem to change positions and formations and things like that far too often. But yeah, I mean, he was the last 2 games quite good, and then he pulled his hamstring towards the end of the game last night. So I'm not sure how old he is off the top of my head. Do you guess how old he is? But doing two 90-minute games in 4 or 5 days, probably not. And he hasn't been playing much all season. Probably not the best for him.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's desperation. He's 32. We're getting old. I
32,
remember when he
right?
was a young kid. I think he scored. No, it wasn't him. I remember coming through the academy, and he was quick. He was pacey, but he couldn't finish. He was very physical though, and I think he nearly had an opportunity, a goal against Sheffield Wednesday in the last game.
Hull, yeah. Well, that whole game he hit the bar.
Mm.
So he does get into positions. He's clearly someone who has played at a higher level. You can see that, and yeah, he is our first choice left back at the moment. So that shows how well the £72 million has been spent, shall we say?
Hmm. And on that, again, there's the money that's been spent. Did you kind of know that these play? Because there was, from what I've read, an understanding of right, we've got to change things up a little bit, start to spend money, then invest in players, then sell them on for more down the line. So, what do you think went wrong? As in, was it the wrong players? Was it the managers, the sporting directors? It was kind of a combination of everything. But when it's wrong on so many levels, you just feel so much like so bad towards the club. It's not a good feeling.
So actually, my background is the 18-19 championship winning Norwich side. The summer before that and the summer just gone felt very similar in terms of big turnaround, lots of foreigners brought in, um, and eventually ended up, I think, 94 points, won it on the last day of the season, got promoted 3 games before that. But we had players like Emi Buendia, Timu Puki, you know, outstanding, too good for the championship players. This summer, we've spent money on players who they could have come off, they still might come off, but some of them are either not ready for championship football, not used to championship football, or not good enough for championship football. So it's a dangerous combination when your team has 7, 8 of those foreign players who haven't really done what we expected them to do so far this season. And then we get on to the sale of Marcelino Nunes, which, as you can imagine, irks a number, if not every single Norwich fan. So I'm not sure if you know what happened there,
Yeah,
but
I'm aware. But well, was it a surprise to you when it was originally? Because sometimes you hear the rumor, you're like, "Nah, it's not going to happen," or you're like, "That if you dare happens," and then it actually comes true. Do you see what I mean? So the one thing for like a social media reaction, but the other thing when you go to the ground and you experience, like, especially in the Derby game.
well, the rumours were that Ipswich had made a bid for him, and nobody could believe those. To making a bid to him, to Norwich accepting the bid for him, to then found out that he'd been wanting to leave for a couple of seasons. His agent had touted him to every single Turkish league club, and no one was interested. Norwich were looking for about 3 million for him, which was not a lot of money, but he's out of contract at the end of the season. Ipswich came in with 10 million, 7.5 up front. We were sold the deal was sold on the fact that the manager, head coach, did not want a player who did not want to be at the club to be at the club. Unfortunately for that, we have just sold our most creative player. So it cannot be any coincidence that Josh Sargent scored 6 goals in the first 5 games of the season. Marcelino Nunes is sold. Josh Sargent hasn't scored since Marcelino Nunes has been sold.
He looks like a player as well because we talk about Norwich again. Sargent is one that comes to mind. He hasn't obviously had. He looks like also from what I've seen very briefly, he looks like another player that's low on confidence. And strikers, when you're low on confidence, they miss golden opportunities.
Yep. And last night was evident of that because the first minute of the game, did you see the chance he missed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I
was
mean, he
easy.
would absolutely bury those. Now, he claimed he got fouled. I mean, he might have done, but you've still got to score those chances. In my opinion, I mean, this is probably with green and yellow tinted specs on, but my opinion, he's the best striker in the league. But he is so low on confidence now, and also as well, we don't really play to his strengths. We're quite a defensive team. So last season we were the second top scorers in the league and finished 13th. This season we are one of the lowest scorers in the league. Not really improved our defence. In fact, I don't think we have improved our defence, and we are second bottom, and at the moment we are the third favourites to go down, which I totally can see.
You think this season you are gonna go down at this moment in time, or do you think because it's not looking bleak, but there are other teams around you. If I bring up the table at the moment, there are other teams around you, so it's not impossible. But I'll be honest, the year that we went down, I was like, we're definitely going down. The year they came down from the Premiership, I've got even the videos on the channel going, listen, if we don't turn this around, we're going down. But it's different when you watch them game in, game out, where other people go, nah, you'll be okay. And it's what, and then afterwards you go, look, I told you. So, but there are other people that it's not too far away. So, what do you think? You think you're one of the favourites because obviously Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, I'm surprised at, but there's not too many points difference at the moment.
So looking at that table, I think Oxford are second favourites to go down, but they're still 4 points above us. We play them on the 25th of the month. That's a huge game. That's an absolutely huge, enormous game for both clubs, I think. I can see a situation where if he doesn't lose his job, and not just him, other people as well lose their jobs, I can't see how we are going to stay up because at the moment it's just not good enough. We have not performed for 90 minutes for the entire season. So our only wins or league wins, were Portsmouth away. We were 2-0 up half time, 1-2-1. They missed a penalty. I think they had a goal disallowed and they hit the bar in the last minute. I went to that game. I didn't get in till the 15th minute because my ticket didn't let me in. It's a different story. The other game was Blackburn away. We won 2-0. Blackburn had a player sent off in the first half. Sargent scored a penalty, made it 1-0. Second half, they were down to 10 men. We scored in the last minute. Every other game we have played this season, we have not deserved to win. So that gives an indication of how unlucky we have been in that we haven't been unlucky. We haven't been good enough.
Mm-hmm. And is it just going to be a change of? You think this season the fans will get to the position where they're going to call? Because I've already heard the chants from looking at fan videos and things around Manning, the board, etc. Is it Napa? Was it
Yep, Ben Napa. Yep.
Napa, yes. So Stuart Webber was before with Stuart Webber as a sporting director. Was that you could see the club going in a better or the right direction?
Yep, definitely. The problem with Stuart Webber was he did an excellent job, a really, really, really good job, and you can't fault what he did up until the summer of 2021. And in the summer of 2021, we sold Emi Buendia. We replaced him with a number of players who either were loanees or not good enough or both. And since then, there's been a big spiral downturn. It was actually 4 years ago today that we sacked Daniel Farker, and I would have him back in a heartbeat. He should never have been sacked. He didn't have the tools to do the job at the time. So it's understandable that we weren't doing that well. And his replacement, Dean Smith, completely different style of football, didn't work at Norwich at all. Even when Dean Smith got sacked, we were actually, I think, in the top six, which a lot of fans criticised Norwich fans for wanting Dean Smith to be out. But what you've got to realise is that the fans see the games every week, and the football that we were playing was just not entertaining. Now, the argument will be, well, what's more important, the result or the style of play? And of course, there's going to be differences and opinions of that. The football, the results is obviously very important because that's what gets you to do things and promotion and things like that. But football's an entertainment sport, isn't it? You want to be entertained when you're watching the games, and it was entertaining under Farker. It was not entertaining under Dean Smith.
But also with that, it doesn't have to be a binary. You can have entertaining football and play an attractive way and get results. It doesn't have to be this binary. It just tends to be people that, how do I say this? They have to. Some people are overly pessimistic. Oh, we have to pick one or the other. Well, you can have both. And with that, so Dean Smith, were you a fan of him? Because again, he came to us after he came to you. And then you think, I can't remember where he went afterwards. I think he came to us and he nearly just about kept us up, but the rot had set into our club at that point.
No, I wasn't a fan. Apparently, he's a very nice guy, but his football was not great. He didn't. He never ever got on the Norwich fans' side. He never really. There was never a time where people were in support of him. It just was a bad fit at a bad time. And actually, he was almost um, a mistake that we got him as a boss because when Farker got sacked, Dean Smith was still in a job, and they lost to Aston Villa, and he was sacked. And within I don't know how many days, he was then the manager of Norwich. So I'm not sure if someone gets sacked, if they should be, well, it's up to them, I guess, but if they should be immediately looking for another job or whether it's best to have a bit of time out. But it seemed like he never really had any time off, went into the Norwich role, and we got relegated. And then the second season wasn't great, and he didn't last until we lasted until Boxing Day. Went to that game, Luton away. It was horrendous. They scored in the last minute, and they totally deserved it. We were poor again. And if you remember Kenilworth Road, the manager has to walk across the pitch. So he walked across the pitch and did not move his head straight at the tunnel. He did not even look at the fans. And you sort of knew then that he was going to be going. Like what happened last Saturday, the whole match. Manning normally goes around, claps the fans, went straight down the tunnel. Everyone thought, well, surely now he's going to be sacked. But no, he survived. He's got another chance last night. Couldn't even beat Sheffield Wednesday, bottom of the league. He's got another game on Saturday. I cannot see a situation where he will be removed before Saturday. And then we've got the international break. So a lot of Norwich fans are hoping that the international break will be the time that we get some changes because at the moment I cannot see us staying up without changes being made. And I hope I'm wrong.
Is that change to the manager, but also the board as well? And do you think that is going to, do you think realistically that'll happen this season?
See, I can't see how it can't happen, but we're owned by Mark Antonesio, who is the owner of the Milwaukee Brewers. So he's obviously got some experience managing or owning sports teams, but he doesn't have any experience in owning football teams. So he's relying on the sporting director to tell him how things are going. Well, the sporting director isn't going to tell him that things are going poorly and he's made mistakes in the transfer market because ultimately that's going to lead to his sacking, isn't it? So we're in a situation where the sporting director can't sack the manager, the head coach, because he'll lose his job. Sporting director can't admit to the owner that things haven't gone right in the transfer market and he's made errors. The manager's not going to resign because how much money will he lose in compensation? And actually, Liam Manning's a really good bloke. He's a really honest, likable individual.
He's from the
But
area as well, isn't he?
yeah, he's from the area. I mean, personally, for me, I don't care where the manager comes from, but I know a lot of people in Norfolk do have that as one of the things that they like. They like having local boy does good. But the last 3 or 4 games, his body language hasn't been great. He doesn't look like he's enjoying it. I actually feel quite sorry for him because he's rolled out to every single post-match um, interview, pre-match interview, and nobody has heard from the sporting director for months. He goes to the games, but we don't know what his plan is. Now, I get the point that people will say, well, what do you want him to say? Because there's nothing he can say now that will satisfy the fans. And I get that to an extent, but we don't know what we are anymore. We had a vision under the previous head coach who he sacked because he didn't get in the top six. And now we're 23rd. So we're not going to get in the top six this season. So what is the long term future for the club? It's not there's not a vision. It's not something you can get behind and say, okay, fair enough. It's a bizarre situation we're in, really.
Yeah, it is weird because normally it's. I was speaking to you, I think, before this and thinking at the beginning of the season, you were thinking, I'm feel confident about top six. And it's amazing how quickly that's turned around as well. Because a lot of Leicester fans were thinking top six, and now we're thinking, oh my God, we've got a lot of problems. But it's seeing it from, again, all the different layers of it and thinking it's hard to hold on to hope.
It is, yeah. And we haven't discussed Ollie Skip yet, which is one of my the best loan player we've ever had, without doubt.
Do
And
you
we had
want him
Harry
back?
Kane. Absolutely, we'll have him back in a heartbeat. He'd be our best midfielder.
The thing is, when we got this was part of the issue. I didn't mind Oliver Skip coming to us, but the issue was we already had lots of defense. Well, again, we have a problem with our over that summer. We had Enzo Maresca come in, and then we go okay, and then he went to Chelsea. Look, these things happen. Then we got in Steve Cooper, and we all went, don't really want him, but we'll back him. And then the first thing he does goes, I want Oliver Skip, and I want to pay 25 million for him. So we've got him in a 4.5 year deal until like 2029. He's not a bad kid, but he gives it a go. But he's started to come back into the team now. But I can understand how he'd improve you. But we're not. I think for the length of contract he's on, we a lot of us just went why, because when we had so many people in that position, we didn't need another centre midfielder. But our financial director, just our sporting director or director of football, just gives the manager kind of what they want. And so now we're in the problem where we've got an Enzo Maresca system as Steve Cooper players. We've then got well, not really Ruud van Nistelrooy players, but some Marty players, and they all play different styles. That's one of the reasons why everything's kind of fallen apart. I don't know, it's similar thing with Norwich because of the change of system a lot of the time, and we're recruited for the manager, but we're not for the long term.
So, how many defensive midfielders have you got?
If we're counting
Yep.
Skip, Winks, Chowdhury, Buba Sumare, so that's four.
How many do you
And
reckon we have?
one, two,
None.
really.
Yep. We don't have a defensive midfielder. We have players who are playing there, but I would say that they are not traditionally defensive. The last defensive midfielder we had was Alex Tetty. Do you remember Alex Tetty?
Briefly.
Yeah. So he is the last, and he's retired now. So that shows you how long ago that was. He's now coach in Norway. So that's how. I mean, I get football isn't all about have you got a 6, have you got an 8, have you. It's not all about that. But when
Have
you
someone who can
see,
do it there at
yeah,
least.
when you see teams just running through. There's so many goals we made that we've lost because of mistakes we've made. It's crying out for that position, and I think we bought 13 players in the summer, including 2 reserve goalkeepers, and we still haven't replaced Alex Tetty from 2019, 2020, 21. Yeah, I'd have Ollie Skip back in a heartbeat. I'd pick him up now and take him back here.
Well, if he's coming, and if you're splashing the money, like, well, it depends on how much money we're going to ask for him, because we paid 25 million, and we're going to want some of that back. Bearing in
Yeah,
mind,
I'm not.
Harry Winks was 8.
Do you rate Harry Winks higher than Skip?
Yes, I think
Okay.
Skip in a defensive position makes sense. When you get attacking, he looks a bit lost, but he does give it a good go. He's just one of those old school championship players that gives it a good go, even if he's not good enough.
Yeah, I saw him for one season at ours. It was the COVID season. He hardly ever gave the ball away all season.
Hmm.
Excuse me, and that is an impressive. That's an impressive stat. I think he was his pass completion rate must have been high 90s. I think honestly, he was superb quality, and we were missing that. Because that's the season Tetty left. I remember now. We had to replace him, and so I guess we haven't had a defensive midfielder since Skip, if you can say, yeah. So no permanent since then.
Hmm. If I think we have a problem where a problem with us is not also ability, it's also ethic. And we saw not in the last game, but the game before that, at the weekend where we just saw players walking around the pitch. Bearing in mind we're losing 2-0 and players are walking to the ball and like for the throw-ins. And I think that's part of the issue. On paper, we've got a good team. And I hope that we can beat you, even though a lot of Leicester fans will be like, look, we don't have a chance because you know how football is, but people are so pessimistic with everything. But there's definitely an attitude problem with Leicester.
That's interesting because I would say almost every Norwich fan will think you're going to win on Saturday. So we both think we're going to lose. So that's going to be an interesting result
I
either
don't know.
way.
I don't. I don't know if we're going to lose. I just think that the as a team, we've got the quality to blow teams away. We can't really score defensively. I think we have finally in the last game sorted it out. But is it hard to talk about, or is there any like players to look out for ahead of the game from a Norwich perspective that have been impressive?
Okay, so probably one of the most successful signings was a guy called Makama from Lincoln City, big guy, centre forward. Didn't expect much from him when we signed him. I was expecting him to go into the under 21s, under 18 team. He actually is now starting for us and on the right wing, which isn't ideal because he's centre forward. And that's actually coincidentally how Josh Sargent started his first season. But he has got something about himself. He's a big lad. He's got some presence. He wins headers. Didn't have the greatest game last night, but you can prove that if you buy good League One, League Two standard youngsters, then you've got a very good chance of them succeeding. So he's the only real, the only real youngster from the football league that we bought, and he's been a success. We bought a lot of players from abroad, so I would say our goalkeeper as well is very good. And I think if I read right, your goalkeeper got injured and might not be playing Saturday.
We'll have Begovic in goal. So he's a steady champion. Not steady. I think for a second keeper, he's a good quality championship keeper.
So we've got a good keeper now. Actually, he does make an error, but I mean, what goalkeeper doesn't? You know, Donnarumma made an error on Sunday, didn't he? So you 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 need a good goalkeeper in that league. So we have got one, and someone who actually can replace Tim Krul, who was an excellent and I think underrated goalkeeper. We got Harry Darling in the summer on a Bosman from Swansea, who at the start of the season was excellent and recently has not been performing well. So again, confidence that's affecting players. He's probably at the moment potentially regretting the move because he had, by the sounds of it, he had a whole host of clubs he could have joined. And I could be wrong, but I imagine Norwich probably, with the money we've been throwing around, probably are paying him more than other clubs offered. So, and the fact that I'm struggling now to think of another player who could impress on Saturday, I think gives an indication of what sort of season we are having. Oh, the other player I could think of is, so we got a commentator called Chris Gorham, okay, and we've signed a player from Denmark called Matthias Chris Gorham. So Chris Gorham interviewed Chris Gorham on Wednesday. He scored the equaliser for us. He got injured in the commentary game where he'd scored the goal to put us 1-0 up, and then commentary equalised in the 96th minute. That was a fun ground to get out of after that game, I can imagine, as you can imagine. But he has actually got something about himself. He's not very tall. He's shorter than me, and probably about 5'9". But he's got something about himself. He's got a little bit about Craig Bellamy about him. So he's a bit of a nuisance. He'll chase hard. He's not bad in the air. So yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to think of any more players I can recommend or look out for Saturday.
I mean, I'm just looking at the team. Do you think, in terms of formation, you mentioned that Manning's been changing it about, but the same team that started against, apart from Schlupp, as you mentioned, has got an injury. But is that the team you expect to line up against Leicester on Saturday?
No, I don't think Duffy will be in the team now. Duffy, you may
Duffy's
have
one of the only
seen.
remaining ones that I recognise from the last time I was in the Championship.
Well, Duffy. There was an argument between Duffy and someone on last night where the camera picked it up and now it's gone viral. Um, so and also as well, Matson, who we bought to replace Nunes, had been playing quite regularly. He didn't play at all last night. Nobody really knows why. So I think they might go back to well, we haven't got a left back, so I think they might go back to a 4-4-2 because McLean, number 23, can play left back. It's not his preferred position, but he can play there. Um, I reckon Chris Gorham will come in instead of Schwartau, and Matson will come in instead of Duffy, and then McLean will go left back. And then after that, I think that probably will be the team. So we signed McConville from Brighton, who, when Brighton played us in the FA Cup last season, looked really good. I know he didn't play for a huge amount of the game, but he looked really confident, really comfortable. He doesn't look like that for Norwich. So it does seem that the effects of players you play with make a big difference to you. So yeah, that probably will be the team given those changes. I could be wrong. I mean, he could go for something completely different. The team that was played last night and the whole game. It's the first time a conference played all season. So we'll see.
Is it just a case of nothing's working, so we might as well try somebody new?
I think that's what probably they are looking at. So actually, one of the things that people have taken um, offence isn't the right word, but not happy about with Manning is he does set up. It appears, and he will obviously won't agree with this, but it appears he sets up not to lose the game rather than to try and win the game. So the second half yesterday, we actually had it was almost 4-2-4 the formation we're playing because we took Duffy off after half time for Chris Gorer, who came on and scored. So he may open it up a bit more, maybe a little bit more attacking. I mean, the first half performances we've had this season, I read somewhere, I heard somewhere that if you count the first half table, we're sixth and we're actually 23rd. So that gives you an idea of how woeful we've been second half. Apart from last night, even though we weren't great, we did win the second half 1-0. And the fact that I'm actually sat here saying we've won a second half for the first time this season just shows how this season has gone, really.
Yeah, and it's only the beginning, so it feels like a long old season. Oh, is it Topic as well? Topic, that's the 22. He did a great ball over for your goal. That was a beautiful run through for Sargent, and then he popped it across. I can't remember, but yeah, I thought that ball again, just clutching at straws here. I thought that was a really good ball for the goal.
Yeah, that wasn't actually Topic.
Oh, was it
So
not?
no, so Topic, when he signed for Norwich and he played the first game of the season, he was first half superb. He has not played like that since that first game. So Norwich fans, after the first game, thought, "Blimey, we've got a player here. He's everywhere. He can win tackles. He can play." And ever since that game, we have not seen the same player. So what happened to him? I don't know. Whether he completely lost confidence after the first defeat or what, I don't. I have no idea. But he's definitely. I mean, he hasn't been in the team for the last few games, which shows you. I mean, Norwich have bought a lot of players with potential for 3, 4, 5 million, but they're not coming off. So there's nothing you can do about it for 2 months because the transfer window doesn't open until January. In January, the prices are always overinflated.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get a bargain in January at all. There's rumours that Sargent was going to be sold, but turned it down himself, not down to the sporting director or the head coach in the summer, and he stayed. So there's rumours that he's going to go as well in January. Because the other thing as well with Sargent is there's a World Cup in the summer, and his host, the host team is the USA, and he has not got into the squad today for that latest squad. So he will be doing everything he can to get in that squad to be at the World Cup in the summer. So if that means joining a team where they're really attacking and he'll score loads of goals, I can see him doing that.
Mm. I guess, and that's another thing where you look at your talisman, and if he leaves, you go. We've had it with Vardy recently, where it's like, well, to try and replace somebody like that, it's not just in terms of goals. It's what he does to the other players as well, how he gets them energized, what the kind of the vigor and charisma it gives them.
So the interesting thing about Sargent was, if you ask any Norwich fan, how was Josh Sargent's first season? Almost unanimously, they'll say, "Blimey, terrible." But he was playing right midfield. So when when Pookie left and he went up front, completely different player. So if he leaves and Makama goes up front, I'm not saying Makama's anywhere near the level of Sargent or Pookie, but there's an opportunity for somebody to play in their natural position. So sometimes some weird things happen with people leaving. You think it's the worst thing in the world. Having said all that, I said it earlier in the call. I still think Sargent's the best striker in the league. So we wouldn't want him to leave, but I can totally understand if he does want to leave because he's his confidence has been shot to bits, and that chance he would have buried that chance at the start of the season on last night, and he didn't even get it on target.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen him bury chances when I've been watching other games before as well, and much harder chances than that that he's put
Oh
away
yeah,
before.
yeah.
And in terms of that, even coming away to the championship, what have you made of the championship this season? Because there was rumours that it's going to be a hard league, etc. And it's been pretty equal with the likes. Obviously, Coventry are getting the headlines, and rightfully so for some of the performances they've had this season. But it's been pretty. I'd say it's been what's what I'm looking for. It's been exciting, but it's been quite results been quite even throughout, not more than usual championship seasons.
Well, if you look at the top nine, there's not a parachute payment in sight. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a really encouraging thing for having a competitive league. I've got a friend who supports
I wonder why you
Charlton.
said top nine, and then I looked at who was in 10th.
Well, they've got a parachute payment, haven't they?
Yeah.
So I've got a friend who supports Charlton. He is absolutely loving this season. They've just taken the momentum from last season and run with it. And so many clubs do that. Like, we did that. We got promoted 2 seasons in a row. Ipswich got promoted 2 seasons in a row. There's a lot to be said about momentum in football and having consistency and things like that. And I mean, I think the Charlton manager is a bit of a, he's a bit crazy, but he's obviously got them going. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a very interesting league, isn't it? It's complete. I mean, from second to second to well mid-table, there's 8 points,
Mhm.
and we're talking mid-table. We're talking Watford, and then even a team like Wrexham. I think Wrexham are going to blow a load of money in the transfer window in January because
Blow
they
it,
are not
blow
going.
it, blow it, as in negatively blow it.
No. As in, well, they might negatively blow it, but I think they will spend a lot of money because I think they're going to be in a position in January where they probably won't get relegated, so they know they can attract players to play at least Championship football again next season, and possibly then look at the promotion to the Premier League. So if I was to give a dark horse for you for this season, I know they're sixth, but Charlton have got. I think they bought really well. They
Mhm.
bought a load of players from Luton. They got a guy, Sonny Carey, who was released by Norwich, played for the local village where I live, then played for Kings Lynn, then went to Blackpool. So he's working his way up, and he's by all accounts, I haven't seen too much of him, but by all accounts, he's having a really good season. They've got a manager who actually has done wonders um, for Luton, and before he moved from there. So they would be my dark horse. Millwall beat us first game of the season, and they've got a
They
really
look
good
really
championship
strong.
manager.
Yeah.
Yep. So he's absolutely fine in the championship. Alex Neil. He's a good. I mean, I'd have him back.
Mm.
He's a great manager. Derby is an interesting one because before we played Derby, they were below us. They didn't look great. First half, we outplayed them, but that counts for nothing if you don't score. They, I think they, if I'm right, I think they had one shot on target against us in the entire game, 1-1-0, and then have won 3 games on the bounce since then. So again, momentum. As soon as if you get some momentum, then you are going to be flying in this league. I'm
Mhm.
going to actually check that Derby stat because it felt like at the time that we had completely blown it against them, um, because we were so dominant in the first half. But there's dominance and there's losing
Yeah.
with dominance. So let me look at the
Um,
match stats. Derby, they had 3 shots on target in the entire game.
that's mental. But the thing is, that's also just a bit about football as well.
Yep,
That's just how it works. I mean, another team that I don't have you played Preston yet?
that's game before Christmas.
Oh, there's nothing
So
there. Never mind. Okay.
um, we um, we don't traditionally travel well. So we'll go to Plymouth and lose 6-1, which we did a couple of years ago. We
Mhm.
you know it's and traditionally people don't travel well to come and play us. We often hear people say, "Oh, it's such a long way to Norwich. That road to Norwich is it's a nightmare journey, even for Leicester, which is only probably what 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's still a lot. It's still a. I mean, I know the journey because I do it every month, as you know. Um,
Mhm.
but um, the I forgot what I was going to say. There, I've completely lost track. You might want to delete
It was
this
something
bit.
about the location. It's only 2.5 hours, but
Yeah,
it's not the location. The actual issue is it with it isn't that the timing or the miles. It's just the actual getting to it because it's just A
yeah,
roads all the way.
yeah. So, as an example, if we were to play Preston, I'm just going to do. This is probably not that interesting, but I'm going to do the Preston to Carrow Road drive, and bearing in mind it's not even rush hour, so
Yeah, but that's going to be horrible. It's going to be what 5 hours because that's
yeah,
above.
four and a half, and that's without
Yeah,
stopping.
yeah,
So yeah, that's a long drive.
yeah. And also, it's. I think we went to the. I think me and Ant, who I do sometimes content with, we went to the Norwich game. I can't remember when that was. I want to say we were both in the Premier League. The
Did
year
you win
before we
two
got
one?
relegated. Yes, it was. You should have had a couple of goals, but we just scraped away with a lucky 3 points.
I remember that game because it was the first home game, I think, or second home game of the season,
Yeah,
and you were. It was a nice sunny day. Away end was
lovely day.
sold out. So that's always a good sign of how well a club is doing. How many they take to Norwich.
Hmm.
That's always a good because I sit on the halfway line on the same stand as the away end, and you can always tell how close they are to the halfway line, how many there are. So I
Mhm,
think Hull only took about 700 fans, I think, to us
mhm,
last week, and it's not that far away um, for Norwich terms, anyway. It is for Hull because they've got other and and they're top. Are they top six still, or they drop down a bit?
who's that?
Um, Hull, I
Preston.
know they're eighth.
Yeah.
I was Hull at the weekend last weekend. They only took 700 fans, but again, another game where they didn't need to have that many chances to beat us, and second half was a bit of a another disappointment.
Mhm. Yeah. I think just on that, I think another player to I'd be interested to see how well Preston do this season because when they played against us, they bullied us off the ball. They very there's a lot of teams like your Hull, I would say Charlton or another one, Preston another one. they know that they're a team that's bigger than the sum of their parts. You know, some teams can get away with just having a great player, but I think that's becoming less, not the system football, but the teams that are buying into this is what we need to do to win the game. Them teams tend to be doing better this season than the teams that have splashed money, as we're seeing with Southampton, with us, with Ipswich as well.
Yeah, I just looked at your result against them in August, and if you look at their side, there isn't any massively standout individuals you'd think, would you? But they obviously have. I mean, I think Heckingbottom's quite a good manager, but Sheffield
Yeah.
United fans wish they had him back. He's a former Norwich player as well, and actually a left back. He's probably getting our team at the moment.
So
So
if you have a look when you play them, I'd say two players to look out for who I was thoroughly impressed with. One of them was a guy called Small, and one's Osmajic, which is a striker. Absolute championship, in your face, Mitrovic kind of not as good quality as Mitrovic, but that kind of aggressive in your face. I know what you're doing. Small's another. Some of the ball he put in was incredible, and he was defending for his life. And you know, when a player they want it more, and I think that's why we've lost a lot of games, not because we've necessarily been a bad team. We've been bad, but also people have gone. These guys, we're gonna. Millwall was a great example. They didn't let us breathe. They smashed into us. Proper championship, which I was actually quite happy with because we've got quite a few prima donnas in the club at the moment that I think they're too good for the championship.
you get that with clubs who go down. Have you played Swansea yet this season?
Not, ooh, I don't. Yes, I think we have. Do
So we
you know
played
where you
them.
get the results? But I think we might have.
So we played them a couple of weeks ago. They got a guy called Vipotnik. He is exactly the sort of player you described, Mitrovic type. Scored 2 goals against us, two really good goals, and the second one was from 25 yards, absolute bullet. Again, championship players, if they have confidence, they could do some damage to teams who are struggling. And he was one of those players that did exactly that.
We did actually win. I thought it was Birmingham, but we did beat them 3-1 away. That was where we started to say the tide has turned, but we've not won a game since then. That was 10 games, one win in 10. That's our last win.
So we haven't won since August. So
Yeah.
as you said, this is going to get into the case of who's worse. And
Yeah. I'm with you, and it's not gonna be fun. I mean, is there anybody else that I'm just having a look at some of the results that I've got? But is there any other team you'd say to look out for? But in general, what have you made of the championship this season?
So we played Coventry away, who are flying and probably look like they're going up.
Yeah,
And they've only lost one game, and we are second bottom. And we held them until the 96th minute for them to equalise. And I do think that might have had quite a big impact on both teams' seasons because they remained unbeaten. Their fans were the stadium was bouncing before the game and at the full time whistle. They should have really beaten us. I mean, if I'm being brutally honest, we got quite lucky that it was only one. We were still winning in the 96th minute. So I think they're going to go up. Stoke's an interesting one because
really interesting. Yeah,
they're Mark Robbins is a decent championship manager. I'm not sure what it'd be like in the Premier League, but again, another team that hasn't really got many superstars. And then the other one that we really struggled with was Middlesbrough at home. I know I've just mentioned the top three in a row there, but Middlesbrough have taken on Rob Edwards, who people might have thought he's just been sacked by Luton. Why would Middlesbrough want him? But evidently, Wolves want him now, and he used to play for Wolves. So if they keep him, they've got. So I think they've got some money behind them as well. They've got our old scout Kieran Scott as their sporting director. So they'd be quite an interesting one. But I'm still putting my neck on the line and saying Charlton. Nobody rated them. They come up through the playoffs, favourites to go down, and they have got the fans on their back on their side now, and
Mhm.
that is a massive thing in football. We do not have the fans are not on the team side where we are because we want changes to be made. So
Yeah.
let's
And
see.
And with that, again, another team that came up with them. We've mentioned Wrexham. We've mentioned obviously Charlton as well. You mentioned. What do you make about Birmingham City this season? I think they've flattered to deceive when I've seen them. They've got I think, ex-assistant manager as their manager, but when he was under Brendan Rodgers. But what do you make of them?
So I watched the first game of the season. They drew 1-1 at home to Ipswich. Ipswich got a last minute penalty, but I watched the game and I thought they got some good players. At the time of watching, I think they just bought a couple of guys from Asia, I think,
Mm,
and they looked pretty handy. They they deserved to win the game. They were unfortunate, and I'm not being biased. I'm being what I saw. Um, but they've also let themselves down with some of the results because they're only mid-table, aren't they? So the fact that they've won I think they won the last two games 4-2. Is that right? I think a 4-0. Ah,
I'm still here. That's that
okay.
that I went to flip on the other tab and then I decided to leave the stream. So well done. So you were saying?
Um, I think they won the last two games 4-0 against both at home, but that shows a sign that they're clicking, and it could be the start because again another team has got financial backing. So it used to be this case of in the championship had financial backing, you could probably not guarantee promotion, but you give it a really good go. Now, because so many clubs have got financial backing, then it's not about spending the money and how much you spend. It's about recruiting the right players, which has always been. It's not. It's not trying to say that you can only do it with you spend a lot because the 2018-19 season in the background I've got, Pookie was a free transfer. Vrancic cost hardly anything. Steepman cost hardly anything. Emi Buendia is 1.5 million. Tim Krul was a free transfer. Ben Godfrey was poached from York for a young age for a very minimum fee. Todd Campbell came through the youth academy. We hardly spent anything that summer, so it's about it has always been this, but it is about making sure that you recruit well, regardless of how much money it costs. If you have to spend and it's a good sign, then great. But there's always times where not necessarily spending high equals spending well, as we've seen.
Hmm. But do you think that's specifically evident this season? And I don't think that's. I think the wages in the Championship have always been out. People are betting on going to the Premier League so much, but I think it has kind of equalised this season. Again, I could be wrong. We'll see what happens, but I think it has equalised where some of the teams that were supposed to do really well haven't, and the teams that have you mentioned, the teams we've mentioned so far, have got a good philosophy, and the players are bought into what the team's going to achieve.
So if you look at the teams that went up last season from the Championship, you've got Sunderland, you've got
Yep, Burnley,
Burnley, and
Leeds.
Leeds, right? And so the previous season, Leeds and Burnley went down, and Ipswich and Southampton went up, and Ipswich and Southampton went down, and it got to a stage where there's 26 teams competing now,
Mm-hmm.
and there's um, there's only room for 20 teams, so there's going to be 3 to 6 teams who could get into that up and down battle, or 23, 26 teams, whatever. And now the fact that the three that came down, none of them are really putting up any trees. the fact that there's the top 9 has no parachute payments, I think this is one of the most open and interesting leagues championships for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And even though 3 teams that went up, I think last year quite evidently it was us, not Ipswich and Southampton that were rooted to the bottom. But at the moment, if we look at the Premier League, is that the Premier League table? Yeah, it's a football table. But looking at that, none of the teams are actually in, and we thought it was going to be another season of, oh, here we go again. But at the moment, Wolves are on 2, Nottingham Forest are on 6, West Ham are on 7. But then you've got Leeds and Burnley just above that, but only on the same amount of difference as Fulham and Everton. So they're still within touching distance. And then Sunderland in 4th all the way there, which is absolute. And then Bournemouth doing really well as well. So where people get used to it. Oh, that's it. There's the difference between the seasons. But what do you think about those 3 teams? Do you think they've got, well, Sunderland is flying, but do you think they've got a good chance of staying up? And you've got 3 big hitters in West Ham, Wolves, again, in previous years have been in the Championship, same with Nottingham Forest and West Ham. Do you think it could stay like that?
So if I was to give a prediction now, I would say that Wolves, Burnley and Leeds would go down. But that's just a prediction. West Ham, I think the win on the weekend was huge for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't think things are right there. There's a lot of protests every game. There's a post-match protest, and they won. So there's a good chance they will get out. Sean Dyche knows how to get results. It's not the most. It's never going to be the most interesting or glamorous football, but I don't think he cares. He wouldn't care Nobody's saying that. If he gets them safe, that's all that matters to him. And fair enough. I can't see Sunderland going down. I know it's only 10
Early
games into the
days.
season,
Mm-hmm.
but they're already 11 points clear of relegation. Now they could
They're
still
halfway to 40
definitely go
points.
down. Yeah,
Nearly halfway to
they are.
40 points.
What's quite frustrating from a Norwich fan and probably Leicester as well is that there's 3 teams beginning with B: Bournemouth, Brighton, Brentford, who I don't want to be disrespectful to those sides because they're going to be looking down and laughing at where we are in the league. But they're not traditionally big clubs, but
No.
they have been so well managed and so well run for a number of years now that they have established themselves as Premier League teams.
Yeah.
And we have not been able to
Solid
do that.
Premier League teams as well.
Yeah, we've not been able to do that.
No.
We've had plenty of goes at it as well.
And we used to have that where we even compete for European football, and we've just fallen as a stone since our owners passed away. And yeah, it's not. This is the reality, and we do. There's a lot of there are certain fans now that are returning on for the certain fans that I know have been loyal that are really turning on the board, and I can't blame them. We want him to do well, but it's just him and the sporting director. We're just going to try and manage everything, and you just can't. They genuinely can't. And then bearing in mind they have to also manage they've got a team in Belgium and then a multi-billion pounds what's it called, duty-free empire, and it's we do, but I'd say as fans we do want the best for them, but you've got to help yourself, and they're just not choosing to help themselves.
So Norwich had the last stand rebuilt in 2003, 2004. Ever since then, up until this season, pretty much every league game has been sold out. If the attendance doesn't show sold out, almost certainly the away fans hardly brought anyone and the remaining tickets weren't sold. A couple of weeks ago, or actually end of September, beginning of October, we played West Brom at home, and there were visibly on Sky TV a number of yellow seats. Now, that is partly because it's an evening kickoff, but the main reason is we've got the most expensive season ticket in the Championship, which people can't
No,
believe.
I don't know that. Yeah.
We used to have a waiting list for season tickets. Apparently, that is almost non-existent now. People are losing faith, lost faith, and we used to pride ourselves on, well, Norwich, we always sell out every week. We've only got
Mhm.
27,500, but we sell out every week. At the moment, we can't say that, which is a sign of where the club is at the moment. So,
Mhm.
but Leicester do travel well to Norwich. You probably have even though you're not doing as well as you hope to do, you probably will take the full 2,000. I'm assuming
Yeah.
you will.
I imagine so, but even people are getting sick of the football. Like, bearing in mind, this is just after half time, and we used to sell out the stadium even last season. But it was a Tuesday night. However, this was the game at 47-ish minutes. As you can see there, there's quite a few gaps of fans, and normally you'd never see this before. So and bearing in mind, we are not 1 minute 38, so we're just over half in the second half, just kicked off at this point after the penalty. So it's not. So we're in a similar position where people are just getting fed up, and
Mm.
it's and also people are using people used to use football to escape what was happening. Now it's becoming the other way around. People go, do you know what? I'm just not. I'm using work to escape football.
I also hear as well people complaining about the price of tickets now. Now that never used to be a thing, but football always used to be really affordable, in my opinion. But at the moment, it seems like there are other priorities, which is understandable for people. Then, and at the moment, going to watch Norwich play at home, we played seven, we've lost seven. So
Mm.
that isn't going to attract your my neighbour, for example. The last three home games, he was going to go, changed his mind at the last minute, went to watch the local team. Now, he's a Norwich fan. He normally goes every week. He hasn't
Mm.
been for the last three games. So, yeah,
And
it's a
it's
problem there.
and I get that because I've never booed my own team. I've only booed a couple of opposition players, but I like to keep the people. Also, you just stand there with your arms crossed and you're hearing the boos, and it's not nice. It's really not nice place because because normally you want to hear. Sometimes because I remember having it before where we've had a brilliant win and they just start to sing a chant about every single player, and then sometimes they're like, right, we're going to chant about the old players that don't even play for us anymore, and it's a great feeling because you're there and the people are just having a good sing song and a good time, and it just feels like every chant now is just about the manager, about not manager wants to sort it out. You've got the multiple chants about the director of football. And it's just not a good place to be in because you feel it and people don't want. I understand why people don't want to be part of it.
So, talking about ex players, we've gone this entire call without talking about James Maddison.
We have. He's
What a
another.
player!
Are you surprised that he's not? Are you so with him going to Tottenham? Obviously, coming to us then going to Tottenham. How have you made? What have you made of his time at Tottenham? I know he's injured now,
Um,
but
Not as good as I thought he would have, as it would have gone.
me
But
too.
I'm also part of me also thinks that I'm not sure that was the right club for him. But that's I don't know. I don't know them well enough to say that. But what I do know is on his day he would probably get into any team in the league
Yeah.
um, because he's got so much ability and also as well drive. He's a really driven player. He is really, he really wants to improve. I mean, we made an absolute steal. We did with £3 million we paid for him from Coventry. How nobody else better than us were in for him because we were in the Championship at the time. It just defies belief. And then the first season they sent him out on loan all season, so he only ever really played one season for Norwich. but he made a massive impact. He scored the winner at Portman Road, so that's obviously going to put you into the good books for a lot of Norwich fans. One player of the season, top scorer, scored a hat trick away at Hull, which for a midfielder who's in their first real proper season, and that's not an easy place to go. So
No.
yeah, he's also got a lot of affection for Norwich. He always tweets about them, and
He's got a tattoo, of
yep,
Norwich.
yep.
Yeah.
He's yeah. I wonder if one day he might end his career at Norwich or go back to Norwich at the end of it, towards the end of his career, maybe when he's not up to being a top level Premier League player. Who knows?
Yeah.
We
We'll
can
have to
we
see.
can but dream.
So, speaking of that, we've got a couple of players that I think we've mentioned some of them already. So, we've mentioned people that we're kind of doing bingo. We've mentioned Oliver Skip, James Maddison, Jeff Schlupp, Harry Kane. There's a couple of other players I've had to research, but any other guesses of players that have played for Leicester and Norwich?
Ewan Roberts and Darren Eady.
Ewan Roberts, yeah. What? Because again, Ewan Roberts was. Did you have him with the gappy teeth as well? Around that,
Yep.
if you remember him, yeah.
So he actually had a very, very similar start to his career that Sargent had, in that the first season he hardly scored any goals, and he got a lot of stick. Season after that, and then for the rest of his career, he scored regularly. He goes to the same gym as me actually, and he is such a nice guy. He really is a really nice bloke. I'll have a Norwich shirt on walking upstairs, and he go, "Great shirt, mate." Things like that. So yeah, he's a really nice guy. So the other one wasn't Darren Eady, no?
Well, it might have been. It might have been. I think it was a bit before my time. But Ewan Roberts, I remember. But also, he does commentary for Leicester still. So for Leicester, the football, the official football stream, which nobody really pays attention to. But he appears again, same around the ground. Fans absolutely love him. I've got a couple of other ones. One that grew up in Leicester, Dion Dublin.
Of course, yeah, Dion, yeah. Although
Yeah,
I don't really, even though he grew up in Leicester, I don't ever really associate Dion with Leicester. I know he
yeah.
grew up there, but yeah, Dion was. I can't believe we released Dion. That was a bizarre thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy situation. And then he ended up Man United 2 years after that. So yeah, okay, yeah, Dion, yeah, he
I
won our
think
Player of the Year a few years ago.
I think as well when it comes to, I think Leicester fan, even though probably Gary Lineker is not, well, might be associated with Leicester or Emil Heskey from Leicester, but he's obviously associated with much bigger clubs, and that's what we used to be. I remember thinking, go, oh, this is where Gary Lineker's from, this is where Emil Heskey's from, and then we got our own kind of Jamie Vardy who made his kind of look here. Mark Robbins, I think you mentioned,
Mark
Spencer,
Robbins, yeah.
yeah,
Spencer
as another
Pryor, yeah.
player. Adi Akinbaye, he's got.
Okay.
What did you make of him? Because he's gone down as like a Leicester folklore as like don't be an Akinbaye, which was just basically a player that missed everything.
So he never really ever played for Norwich. They got rid of him quite early on in his career, but he always used to come back and um, not, I wouldn't say haunt Norwich, but he always used to. You'd see him coming back, and it's, oh, Aki Bayer's playing again. Yeah, he's not a lot of Norwich fans would probably hold him into high regard. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, if you also flip it from players to managers, then obviously we can't go without talking about Martin O'Neill,
Yeah.
because Martin O'Neill was our manager, and then just before we played you, the radio or the TV said, "Oh, by the way, Martin O'Neill's resigned 2 hours before kickoff. Played you 2-0 up half time, lost 3-2." So that was the start of a very downward period for us.
Yeah. For us, Martin O'Neill period was the period when I used to go to Leicester. Everybody goes, it was not like the Martin O'Neill days because at that time we were up kind of in first division, Premier League, performing. And for years when we were championship and just holding on in the championship, everybody used to talk about, well, it was not the Martin O'Neill days. And I just thought it would never come back. So I just thought we were championship fodder for what felt like an eternity, especially when I was younger.
Yeah, I I was gutted, absolutely gutted when he left.
Mm-hmm.
Gutted because he was played for us twice, and we'd done a lot to get him away from Wickham. And all he wanted to do was buy one player, Dean Windass. That's all he wanted to do. I want to buy Dean Windass, £800,000. Deal's done. Chairman wouldn't pay for it. Had a bus up the chairman, left. We then nosedived down to a stage where we never actually really properly recovered, and for about nearly 10 years, really. That's how
Same thing happened with Leicester.
Yeah.
Until we had the King Power Group in, because we were just fuddling around Mickey Adams a little bit them days, and then just came down, and we were never the same team since. And then obviously King, that's why there's such disdain for not calling out the club and saying, look, we need you ownership, because they've done so much, taken from League One to Championship to the Premier League to Champions League. But I think there are, as you probably saw from that screenshot, and yes, it is a Tuesday night, there's a lot of fans that are quite apathetic at the moment. I don't think there's a lot of fans that won't be angry, but they'll just be quite numb to what's happening. I don't know if it's the same with Norwich at the moment.
Yeah, same. And I have heard some fans, and I saw it written down, some fans saying, if we win, that means he was going to have a longer time in charge. And when you start having that sort of discussions, it's never good. It's never gonna work out well. So
yeah, we'll have to see. I think. Do you know what? We'll leave it there, because this is nearly going on as long as the game will. But I'll be honest, Dave, I've really enjoyed it, and I can't lie, I probably enjoy this more than the actual game.
Yep, and I would wholeheartedly agree with that as well.
But yeah, David, again, appreciate your time. Again, if everybody watching, hopefully you've enjoyed this kind of one-off special marathon episode. And like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you for the potential post-match after Norwich. Goodbye.